Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to yet another week of running the Gauntlet. I'm, of course, your host, Very Last Nerve. Happy to be here yet again, joined by permanent co-host Luyten. Luyten, how you doing?
Hello, doing good, doing good.
That's what I like to hear. And joined by, of course, special guest Bubbles 101012, the other Bubble, but the community just knows him as the GOAT. Bubbles, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Very happy to be on the podcast today.
I'm glad to have you. I'm actually very excited to talk about this week's matches. I'm actually very excited to have you two specifically to talk about this week's matches. And I guess without further ado, right, no need to introduce the weeks past that. We can just dive right into the standings. So I do want to do a brief, quick update on the standings to remind everyone of tiebreak rules as we get more and more games into the series. Please keep in mind that your standings, provided that you have a same point, which is derived from victory points, which is given based off how you've actually won your series. If your points are the same, this first category, your tiebreak is split by first head-to-head. So if it's a two-person tie, we can manage it with head-to-head, and three-person ties, it gets a little bit funky, but the same thing applies. After that, it goes to series win rate, okay? Your total of wins and losses in your series. And then your game win rate after that. And then afterwards is average game time. So knowing all four of those, you'll know how we'll break it down to know who is in the eliminated tier, who is starting in the lower bracket in the double elim playoffs versus who is just all crystal clear. Guys, is there anyone surprising as we look at the standings? Any team that's kind of underperforming or overperforming even?
Oh, 07. My goats.
Yeah.
I think you know which one that is, but hopefully they can bring something back.
Yeah, I mean, first 3 weeks without a series win is rough. That's a team that I considered one of the better ones in our pool, and not winning a series yet is rough.
Do you guys recognize that if they lose on Saturday, the 07 will officially be 07?
Oh, maybe that's what they're shooting for.
they absolutely slingshot 4D back
chess.
That's correct.
The Elo slingshot is loaded.
I also want to do a big shout out to Summit admins on a huge rebound as well, shooting up. I believe they were in the yellow last week, all the way up now into the clear, third place in their pool. Pretty strong team once they're all locked in. And playing.
It's a strong team, man. Maybe we should put them in A tier of our power rankings. I don't know.
Well, my power rankings were previously considering Riddy to be spinning the wheel. I have since learned he is not spinning the wheel. Okay, so you can't.
Well, he wants to be, but he's not playing good enough to justify it, or off roll. So
imagine if he spun the wheel and that determined the role he was in. He had to play the role of the champ he landed. Anyway, all side stuff. Without further ado, we can actually get into talking about the matches this week, and of course, we're gonna kick things off with none other than 07 versus MDFC. I think a sad series in total to watch if you're an 07 fan, but a phenomenal series to watch if you're a Molly the Dog fan, because, spoiler alert, Molly the Dog fan club actually claimed their first win this series. I mean, it looks like it starts out pretty one-sided for 07. I mean, just literally speaking. These are crazy stat lines. And I guess Hussal finally decided that he was going to show up and play like a good player in the video game, right?
Is that Hussal jungle?
Yeah, Silas is Hussal.
I don't know why he's got no name, but it happens.
Yeah, 07's top side really just ran this game. Rurika, Vowels, and Hussal just went out and carried and snowballed it beyond anything that MDFC could match.
I do want to give a special shout out to Vowels here. He and I were talking about how strong Urgot is right now, which I hate Urgot and all Urgot players. And he kind of proves the point in this matchup. A 4-0 Urgot is horrifically scary to be playing against. I also want to say, for me, this series was really heavy-handed, or very heavy-hearted, because 07 and MDFC are two teams I have been repping nonstop. I've put 07 consistently high, and I've always said that Molly the Dog is on like a losing slump, but will break out of it. And so to see Molly the Dog break out of their losing slump, I was happy. But for it to be against 07, it actually made me really sad. Like it was literally the bittersweet symphony of games.
It's truly unfortunate.
But then we
I need Gilly with a win. I will say these teams need different color. We need more colors in these teams, guys. There's so many similar ones. I
It's
mean, it's a lot of teams, but come on, we could do better.
in the wise words of my friend Lacuna, there are only 11 named colors in the English alphabet. So we have 16 teams. What are we supposed to do? You know what I mean?
Bummer.
But we do have
What can win?
the. Is this the week we had the Battle of the Piss teams? Was
I
this
mean, you're
the
looking
Battle
at
of
one
the
right
Piss
now.
teams?
No, there's
Yeah.
another one. There's another one later.
The colors aren't all that great, but we see Molly the dog claim a game. They actually claimed a game, which is this is crazy, right? Because it's how does O7 have such like a structural breakdown between game 1 and a game 2?
I mean, I think part of it is J-Rich actually like playing the game. I swear I mentioned in Tournament General, I don't think he's trying because he doesn't think he can carry his bum ass team or something. But clearly it worked out this game.
I mean, is Zeri really strong right now? Is that what this is?
I don't think so personally. I think she's better with Yuntal than Static, which we do see her, which is good. But she's definitely not in her best state now.
Okay.
Yeah. I do think it's mostly just a comfort pick. I also think a big part of the difference between these games is switching from carry junglers and like really strong mid lane to Ahri Vi, which it's a good combination, but when you have this mid jungle that is really the core of O7 that needs to carry in order for them to win, and they switch to Ahri Vi that's just utility, it's really hard for them to snowball the game, and they just weren't able to do that this game and let Zeri, Hui, Lulu just scale and win.
Yeah.
That's a huge shout. I'm surprised O7 would elect to put their only real damage onto Seradid, who, is performing for a silver player, but is in a silver and bronze bot lane against Diamond, and I believe Rose is like high gold. Absolutely mismatched. Only put your damage there, and it looks like Gilly put up a Gilly performance in the bot lane. I don't know. 0-8 is generational.
I was about to say, I think another thing with O7 is if you have Gilly support, I think you can't fall behind. Otherwise, Gilly just starts sprinting it a little bit. He likes his engages, and even if you're behind and the engage won't work, he's still going to full send it.
Yeah.
But I do think Strided is a good comment. I think I've been impressed with him both in his gameplay for his rank, but also his like mental. I played against him. I don't remember. Oh, that's on the Sunday games. He was aggressive. He's not trying to not play to not lose. He's playing to win and playing aggressively. So I think that's really good to see some from somebody lower rank.
Yeah, we love our aggressive low elo players. You know what I mean?
Like Bubbles might go.
Yeah,
I mean, what?
Bubbles might go. We'll get into those games. Okay, we have some analysis to unpack on Bubbles for this week as well. But one last throw out for the series. I also want to say an 0-0-19 Lulu performance. You can't go understated on that. That's also an incredible showing. But game 3, of course, was unfortunately an FF by O7, not having enough players. You're going to hear us talk about this. I want to address it real quick. O7 got schedule jabbed, and this is real, by Chinese New Year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, one of their players is moving to Korea, and then 2 of them were out for Chinese New Year, from what I've been reported.
Unlucky.
Bubbles,
Yeah,
you
just really unfortunate scheduling times.
I mean, they still put up a performance. Hopefully, I'm praying openly for the O7 rebound. I think that the slingshot is as primed as it's ever going to get. If they keep going back, they might end up just breaking the elasticity on that slingshot and staying right where they are. But then we roll in to, I think, prior to this game being played, it was the most anticipated matchup out of Pool 1, aside from NS versus WoW. And I think a lot of people put their eyes on this match for it to just be an absolute stomp all the way through. Spoiler alert, it is a quick 2-0. Luyten, what happened this game? What happened these games as we look into them?
Honestly, we played like shit. I think we underperformed. This was like our 4th or 5th game with this roster. We immediately after this game went into flex queue because we realized we needed to play with each other more. Not to like discredit the win at all. I think like NS is a really good team. I put them top tier and everything, but I think a lot of this was more on us than them. Other than their draft is really good. I think, especially game 2. We didn't consider a B1 Pantheon at all. And shout out to Darkle, my goat, played pretty well.
Darko got solo
even
kill
on a
on
gold
Naki.
Akali.
Gold
You
Akali
know,
solo killing the
yeah, I'm gonna
Masters
bench
Nico.
Naki. Sorry, bud.
Nah, Naki then, might have killed Darko a couple times after that, but those aren't important.
No.
I want to put it on your record, Luyten, that you can say, like, I don't want to discredit their win. They're a strong team. I watched i7 Biomatrix miss literally 3 full cycles of his Ezreal abilities this game and still somehow walk out with a quadra kill. Okay.
Well, so
By definition, he could not have played it worse. He didn't hit anything, Luyten, and he won.
to his credit, literally before the clip starts, him and Cookie sniped me like 3 times in a row to kill me, and then the clip starts and they start missing everything. So
I mean, I think that's streamer diff. But then the second game,
Yeah.
it's
this
just
one
the
is
same thing,
atrocious.
right? It's just
No, this one was worse.
This one
We
was
sprinted it.
absolutely
We
incredible.
absolutely sprinted it.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, taking like back-to-back 4v3s and losing both of them is just impeccable.
Yeah, we took a 3v2 bot where I died because I took 400 damage from minions and a tower shot. It was just impeccable gameplay. Absolute cinema, but in the wrong way.
Bubbles, if you had to articulate to Glue Factory one piece of advice after this series, what do you think you would give them? No Glue Factory members are here to hear what you have to say, but if you had to give them like one piece of advice.
They just keep overcommitting for things. I feel like there are multiple instances in both of these games where they just overcommit for plays that they should not be going. Like even in game one, there was a spot where I'm also going to shout out Banana for this. I think Banana played really well in this series, but they 4v2'd on Banana and Billy top lane, and it's an Alawi.
Oh,
Alawi
yeah.
wins those. And they just do that multiple times throughout the series in I think that really just like snowballed the game out of control for them. And NS is a good enough team that they can capitalize on that and take control of the game from there.
Yeah, I think it was game 1. I'm just sitting bot lane and they go fight for grubs with my support and whatnot, and all 3 die. I'm like, that's a bummer. Oh well. And then they go back up top lane again, and all 3 die again. I'm like, oh, it's one of those games, huh?
We're just throwing for fun. Be honest, Luyten, how much
I have
were
no
you
idea what
PayPal'd?
happened.
How much were you PayPal'd for this Callista experience?
0. This was free. Sorry.
Throwing for the
Next
love of the
series
game.
is where I got the PayPal. Yeah.
I do also another thing. After this series. Okay, I learned how hard it is to play support. Well, again, we'll talk about that later. But I got to give another shout out to another support with Gourmet Cookies on NS. I have been thoroughly impressed by that player. I think I actually rated them like mid to high emerald with their PV. Personally, I know other people were trying to tell me no, they're way better than that, and I just didn't believe them. And Gourmet Cookies has been actually kind of fragging out like crazy this series, setting up Biomatrix, and I think they actually mesh really well. I think they're a support ADC duo that wants to play the lane the same, and I think that's like, it can't go understated when a duo can link up like that, right? Because I tried and I'm not good at it. I'm just not.
Don't
Yeah, I
worry,
don't
we'll
think we're
be
gonna be
discussing that in the
steering this for much.
future.
No, see, as long as I keep like letting little bits through, when we finally get there, everyone will be like, "Oh, well, Nerve knows he's not that good."
Let's just say you're really lucky the Riot client is awful.
Well, okay, no, doesn't matter. We're gonna go to the next game. Okay, this is hands down what I'm gonna put as the biggest upset this week. Okay, this is something that you'll hear me say every week, but GT versus Summit Admins, I will openly say Summit Admins way better than I was putting them in previous weeks. It seems like they've got their rhythm, but GT was like my contender to have it all. And I mean, just look at the gold graph, right? It's like it's literally all blue. There's this little tiny dot of purple, so insignificant that like it doesn't matter. And I just have to say, it's the Gargoomba show. He's playing Kisante, which I have questions about, but you're stonewalling out CC Swift and also beating him, so you're isolating the Ornn. And then Gar played those games very, very well to body block and protect his necessary team carries in a way that I can't understate for top laners, right? Like he was using Kisante not only aggressively to win the lane and get kills, but then also still defensively. I think it was a masterclass in how to play the champion, and it enabled his team to go drop the 17-1 Ezreal performance that just absolutely flattened out the bot lane of GT in a way they were not ready for.
Yeah, I think this was definitely the Gargoomba show, but not to discredit his teammates, except for Riddy. but I think Bouncy Knight is a really, really high value player where I'm questioning, what was our mod team doing with this guy's PV value?
True.
Um,
Yeah, I think that doing this against one of the on paper best bot lanes in the tournament in STL and Dumpling is incredible. I think some admins bot lane just straight up gapped them this game.
I do want to say I got to watch this game live as it happened. Um, and it was surprisingly close given the gold gaps. Like there was definitely some play that I think if GT was maybe a bit more focused or maybe felt like the game was still winnable, that they could have converted to. I remember a lot of people like watching it live were discussing it, that it wasn't down and out. I mean, point and click CC with Pantheon is a lot to help people blow up. But the game was just kind of like, I don't know. It was the most one-sided I've seen a game that I thought was going to be the opposite way one-sided, I think, in the history of running these tournaments. Also, just real quick to butt in, this guy right above me, if you have any questions about why the mods didn't balance someone, one of the core mods didn't ever submit PVs. And so, we're supposed to have like 11 or 12 people, and just a big one, a big unnamed moderator didn't submit any PVs for how they were placed. Okay, that's all I have
I did
to
like
say.
10 people.
Yeah, it didn't Bubbles, how
And
many
those were the later ones that Bubbles actually needed more
What?
people.
Bubbles, how many PVs did you do when you did PVs?
About like 150.
About 150. Man, me too. Really, about maybe 15 times more than Luke.
Yeah,
But that's
like
beside
the
the
10
point.
that I did were 15 times more important.
I see.
Do you think about that?
No,
True.
I
They
did.
get God gift to ADC.
He's not. No, Bubbles, don't give him that. Like, we don't. We own this show. We can bully him here. Okay, enough. I don't want the glazing. We're second game. Dr. Mundo, I feel like, should never lose to Camille early. Like, maybe as the game goes on, the health scaling gets there. CC Swift was dominated at all points in these lanes. I will openly say it. Gargoomba is a Masters top laner disguised as a diamond, to steal a quote from somebody who will be left unnamed. He is a phenomenal player. But Tubby finally got to activate and play aggressive. I was talking to Jason about this team, and he's always said that, like, I'm concerned, put it in quotations because it's not that big of a deal, about Tubby mid because of how aggressive they want to be and whatnot. And Tubby just absolutely smashed this time, just unafraid to just gut through any of them. And I think it played a great strength to summon admins this time around.
I believe Tubby's performance has a direct correlation to how skinny his champion is. Not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure on that.
I see. Yeah, the LeBlanc was terrifying this game. It was, I think STL and Dumpling played a lot better this game in getting ahead, but you have two Fed solo laners who are just going to run you down. An Assassin and Mundo against Caitlyn, Nico. The Assassin and Mundo are winning that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure late game I watched Mundo 1v3 while running away, and it ended up with him getting a kill and walking away. So
yeah,
sometimes it doesn't matter how fed you are.
Don't tell him, though. Don't tell Gar. His champ pool plays amazing into my champ pool. Set against Amundo, that's like, it's a field day. So I'm going to destroy him.
Yeah, I will say this series bummed me out seeing, CC Swift, STL Slayer, and Dumpling losing. But it was great seeing Riddy get piss carried by that team.
Yeah, I think it was a stark reminder.
He's on Fraud Watch.
Yeah, no team is in contention to just objectively be the strongest. Everyone is strong, and usually that strength's coming from places you don't expect. Riddy is GM jungler, but the rest of his team was kind of, I don't know, the Lizan Al Gaib of the entire tournament. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, this series was, what's it called? First game was all Gar and Bouncy, and the second game is all Gar and Tubby. But Gar seems consistent, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he spoon-fed Riddy First Bloods both games. Like, it's crazy.
What do you just tell us other things about Riddy this game? How did you rate his performance? Maybe the first three things off the top of your mind about Riddy as a person, maybe.
He says a lot of slurs.
What?
What?
Yes, you asked for the first thing. What?
That guy asked to be a mod. If he's gonna say slurs, I can't.
He doesn't. It's just, no, I think he played really bad for his level this series, but I think he'll get into it. But he doesn't deserve off roll that he wants. That's all I'll say. He's got to perform first. Put him on Skarner duty somewhere until he fixes himself.
Okay, relegate the GM to Skarner. Bubbles, if you had to say one thing off the top of your mind about Riddy, what would you say?
I've talked to him like twice.
Okay, and he didn't say slurs either time.
Oh, that's great.
Not as far as I know.
You haven't played with him enough then.
Okay, moving on.
I see.
Moving on to
I'll remember that for future.
the only series I'm surprised wasn't a 2-0, which is Mouth Breathers versus 2. And let me say, before anyone has any questions about it, I actually thought that it was going to be Mouth Breathers who 2-0'd the World Orders here. But the World Orders stole the game first. And that's just because MBR played their best roster this series. I mean, the absolute strongest that their team can be, with my wife, undisputed best player in the tournament, hands down, absolutely fragging out, playing probably the best game of League anyone's ever seen. And then Tom Tua's debut game, I mean, like, that literal child, by the way, was unleashed. And I mean, I'm just surprised it wasn't a mop up, maybe 40 minutes for both games. But Edmontosaurus got the Twitch. Untouchable. Guy's untouchable. If he's off the bottle for a game, I don't think he can be beat.
Can you go back to the last one? Where's my Viego? Asking for a friend. Is that one of the Iron players?
No,
I
see,
don't think it is.
Uh-oh.
You gotta think
Ooh.
about the flex potential.
Oh,
Like when you
right.
have Gumby power on the Rift, picking the
He's stealing all the damage. It makes sense.
There's actually, I didn't notice this, by the way. I want you to know,
Yeah.
when I saw the 5,000 damage number, I actually did just assume it was Tom Tua, because it's also at the top, that I did not notice that Ricardo might have put up the worst performance of all time.
This was a bit of an AFK jungle moment.
That's not what Ricardo's known for. I feel like he's always fighting things. That's surprising.
Yeah, Ricardo's known for 3 things, which is perma fighting, lying, and always trying to take Baron literally the instant that it respawns.
Yeah.
Also,
Thank God he got buffed by pushing it back 5 minutes.
no, it actually made him weaker.
Oh.
Earthen actually got to abuse an Iron player, so if there's any doubt about Tom Tua's status, I just want you to refer to this game. But I also need to take a second to be TO, tournament organizer, VLN for a second, and officially announce, so that way it's live on broadcast, because this is our town hall kind of podcast. Terra Milk Tea, also known as Jin Jungle, has been officially removed from TO and the server, and has been replaced with a player named Hune. We will be updating the spreadsheets before next match, but let's just say that guy does actually say slurs, and so we had to address that very, very quickly as we move on to the second game, which, if you watch this series live, I actually ask you guys to go back and watch it. So it was Akshan Yumi, right? My wife and Gumby Power permanently linked because the Yumi was keeping him alive. And Tom Tua, they lane swapped in the first 15 minutes of the game. I shit you not, probably 5 or 6 times. Like, Gumby was just walking between all the lanes, taking as much CS as he could, and then killing anybody in the 1v2 that he could the moment they showed up. It was actually like, I watched it and I was like, there's no other person in this tournament could do what Gumby is doing right now for this to be as successful as it was. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, this was just a very, very good performance by Gumby in this game. Also, a great performance on Anivia by Yi88. I have a lot of problems with how TWO let this draft happen. Some of it's understandable, but I mean, leaving Yumi and Anivia open feels very strange.
Yeah, I'm now realizing, like, I was questioning why Anivia is up against an Anivia OTP, but I guess you're probably trying to triple ban. Wait, who?
But they aren't even. They're banning
Gumby.
Zach, Syndra, and Tom Kench.
Okay, yeah, no, 2 just doesn't know how to draft. That's unlucky.
Yeah, there's no world that you ban Tom Kench in the first 3 bans. And I actually am going to give them sympathy between here and the next game. You see Gumby playing ADC and their Masters mid laner locked in. you kind of forgive yourself and you don't ban the mid laners. That's fine. Maybe you don't. I
Yeah,
personally always ban Talon and Echo against him. But Syndra instead of the Anivia, and then Tom Dua's Tom Kench.
I'm fine with the last 2 bans, but yeah, the first 3 are pretty rough.
I don't know. And I mean, it's probably one of the most insane games to watch because double Iron plus Challenger beat a team that averages out probably to high Emerald. And then you go into the second one, assuming that it was a fluke, right? And it just wasn't. This was hands down domination from Mouth Breather's double Iron roster the whole game, literally the whole game through.
Now, let's be clear about this. This was the Gumby show. This was an absolute domination of the entire map by Gumby.
I think
Do
this
not
is
give
a
that
friendly
man
reminder
Talon.
to ban out Talon against this guy.
Let me say it. Talon and Echo. Because in the previous, he's done this exact same level of performance with the Echo in previous series. Like, if he's in there, I'm sorry. You only get to target 3 bans anywhere else. Those first 2 always go to Gumby. And he did a level 2 2v1 where he was at one point like sub 100 HP and went back in because he just knew his damage numbers that well. Like, the clip was ridiculous to watch. And it you can just see 20-2. There wasn't a part of the map left untouched by this player.
I mean, I'm not sure why we're ganking a Talon level 3 with a Aurelion Soul, but fair enough.
But it's just, I do have to say one thing, Bubbles. I do think you're wrong. I don't think this was the Gumby Power show. I actually think this was the Melon Orb show. I think the Morgana's individual setup with the Dark Bindings was probably what won in this game. Plus the Shackles, the ultimate, set up some sizable team fight conversions. I actually think it was the support who ran this game.
I think you persuaded me. I would agree with that.
Thank you. Luyten, do you agree?
Sure, why not?
No
reason not to.
If we're all
I don't see any convincing otherwise, you know.
If we're all in agreement, no need to continue to talk about it. Gumby Power is washed. My wife is amazing. We're going to move on to the next series.
I would vote for her for MVP.
Okay, write that down. Clip this. Send it to
Clip it and
Bubbles
ship
when
it.
the MVP vote comes out. Which, by the way, we're going to live put Luyten on the spot. This is the guy running the MVP vote, by the way.
Huh?
Right up here.
Yeah.
His idea. It was his idea, so we're putting it on him.
Regular season MVP. More info later.
Yeah. And then we have V8 versus Subtly Inting, which was it was a 1-game series, just so everyone knows. Its second game was in FF, but we have a special guest here who got to play in it. How do you feel about the game, Bubbles?
I got gapped mid lane, so I feel bad about it. But shout out to Pinksfam. That guy's pretty good at Twitch. I think he's played 2 games of it. First game he got 30 kills. Second game he got 26 kills.
Yeah, averaging 28 kills on a champ is pretty good usually.
Yeah.
Can you go back again?
Yeah, we'll go back.
I really like that Maokai damage. That's even more impressive. Like,
I
I've
think
never seen a sliver that small.
I don't even think the Maokai damage is that bad. How did Yumi
No, it's not bad.
Viego?
Oh.
Yeah, the Yumi out damaging Viego, much more important. Hey, if you're against Dan Smith, ban the Yumi, man. I also just want to go on record. There's a clip somewhere of this game where Bubbles, who had a all right performance, I'm not gonna go all out against him. He was, versus the Masters, was saying like, "Thank you, Ping Spam, for the carry." I just want it on the record. I did not get carried this game. Okay, I did exactly what I had to do, which was play perfect setup on the Maokai top lane, and I did. Okay, I don't think Ping Spam goes 26-5 without my masterful pressing of the R key. Okay, he might have carried all of you. I was like, he's driving the motorcycle. Okay, but I'm in the sidecar. Okay, you're behind him. You know what I mean?
Is Dan Smith in the other sidecar?
I mean, if you consider it, whoever the ADC that Yumi is on is carrying Yumi. Makes sense.
Yeah.
But I will say this, I do think Nerfy played weak side very well. I think this was entirely just Twitch Yumi show. The rest of the map, especially Pyrosis played very well in this game. As I said, he gapped me. I think he really kept Subtly Inting in this game for longer than they should have been. But in the end, 26-5 Twitch is just going to one-shot the entire team.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what the champion does. Last, I think, official Town Hall moment. Yes, this series, Subtly Inting did have a player who His name's KTN. You should publicly shame him for what he did. Claim that things happened, but I found out later that it was just that he was mad from solo queuing and went to the gym instead of showing up for his game. Just so everyone is aware, the team was given, I contacted all of them, a vote to remove the player. They elected not to because he talked to them. So maybe we don't need to bully him. You can bully him. I give you permission. Just a little bit of bullying, okay? But I mean, it's a quick series. It's a 2-0 by the nature of FF. And then we move into Atomic Whisker Brigade versus WoW. And are any of us three Woof Woof Glazers? Anyone in here?
No.
Bubbles?
I'll bet.
Maybe a bit.
Okay, well then
I'm sorry.
we'll just roll into it. Give us your best Woof Woof Glaze. Go ahead.
Okay, Ivern is the best champion in the game, and he cooked on it. I promise.
Okay, I thought you were gonna give him a lot more than that. That's an acceptable amount of Woof Woof Glaze.
The thing about this game is that I mostly just think that it was a gap in the rest of the game. I think Alun on the Ezreal, Polarius making his debut on Akali, and Promech on set, your favorite champion. I think everybody else just played so well this game that what Woof Woof did this game really didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also there with that. Woof Woof immediately posted in the replay channel the screenshots along with gapped Hyper Dragon, by the way. But you can just see that he didn't really. Like, I'm sure he played setup, but his KP is just, like, not all that good for what you'd want out of an Ivern jungle. You know what I mean?
It's not that hard to get KP on an Ivern either.
Yeah. I do want to shout out Promech huge. Promech is having a phenomenal tournament. I'm taking 50% credit for it because I think I lit a fire under him when I told him I was better than him. That has made him become a demon. But a lot of people don't know that he came from r/set mains. So he does know how to play the set champion. Yeah. He will play that champion well. I won't even say anything about it or try to take any credit for that. I love to see set succeed. And boy, did it succeed. I mean, it just smashed through.
Isn't he a mid lane main?
No, yes, he is a mid lane main,
but
I
he
think
keeps getting jailed in top. But
he was transitioning because I think he was on a comp team. Promech, correct us if we're wrong, but I believe that around the time he joined us, he was on a team, and that team was making him play top lane. And so he was learning it, and then has now since pretty much transitioned into a top laner.
Yeah, we bullied him into it, really.
yeah, versus me. He's my opponent.
Well, no, every single team he's been on, he's been thrown top lane pretty much.
I think he signed up as a I don't know. I'll have to go look back, but I think he's enjoying it. I mean, Tom Kench was really strong in the meta. But yeah, so then it's into the second game, which is like just literally a ping pong match, right? Like, look at this gold graph back and forth. It's no clear team ahead, and I'm going to go on a record to say that's pretty surprising. Like, I feel like this lineup from Atomic Whisker Brigade should be beating pretty wholehandedly, like the first game, this lineup from Wizards of Wahoo.
I don't necessarily agree. I think that Hyper Dragon, Reaper's Blade, and Death in the jungle bot lane support is still a strong enough combo that they can do pretty well against this AWB roster. And I also think specifically from game 1 to game 2, swapping KitKat and Pandalian from between mid and top just helped a lot in this game. I think that solo lanes for WoW in game 1 were a bit of an issue, and in this game, Pandalian still struggled a bit, but mid lane was a lot less rough.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta look to transition. I feel like low elo players in these tournaments always just end up playing Maokai, Malphite, or in top lane, right? Like, it's just the easiest place to place them. And I think they'll transition well. Also, anti-Woof Woof Glaze literally didn't out-jungle Hyper Dragon this game. Like, objective-wise, sure, but look at the KDAs.
Okay, it's literally worse.
Literally worse in every metric except kills.
Well, not kills, yeah.
I mean, Hyper Dragon played this game very well, yeah. His early game was very good, but he just struggled late. It's hard for Hecarim to do much into this team.
They lost 6 kills up, yeah. That's always surprising to see.
Yeah, I don't think AWB ever had a kill lead, actually.
Oof. Well, I mean, that's just... I want to give Hyper Dragon his flowers, because I think he had a rough go of it the first time he was in the server, and, like, He's actually showing up. I will be an ardent Hyper Dragon jungle defender when the role PR comes out. Just be ready for it. Quote me on it. But that's a Smash 2-0. There isn't much to say. Like, it was a ping-pongy game. I believe both of these teams are still really, really strong, despite the 2-0 performance. And then we roll into yet another 2-0. I believe it was just like the week of 2-0s. I think there was only one non-2-0 on Saturday, and it was MBR versus 2.
I think last week was a lot worse, but
Yeah,
last
that
week
might
was
be
one
fair.
the entire weekend. This
yeah.
one was still a lot of 2-0s, but at least fewer than last.
But we have Lacuna Matata versus Leg. And I have to say, I want to go ahead and like give credit to Leg. Lacuna Matata smashed. Very, very strong team. I think Leg is pretty much open to the fact that they're like for funning, and rather than trying to like turbo sweat and get mad like they have in previous week, I think they've actually let a lot of that go. And I actually think they're kind of playing better, despite this being a 2-0 series that Lacuna Matata kind of smashed through, especially on the top side of the map.
Yeah, Owen just ran this game completely. I have a lot of problems with how Leg drafted this game. Uh, they picked Kha'Zix really early because it's a good matchup into Xin Zhao, but you just open up the fact that they can pick all these anti-dive champions that are good into it and won't be able to be killed by it. Like you pick a Lulu, Veigar who goes tank, Garen. What is Kha'Zix supposed to do this game? IFN played really well. He got up early, got like 6-1 at like 15 minutes, but he just couldn't do anything this game.
I do want to rewind it real quick and look back on these bans. You'll notice, and I don't know if any like there was inner conflicts with Leg, but Top Towers Kled not banned. Top Towers Kled not picked either, which was really surprising to me. I think he gets it on Sunday and does pretty solid with it, but I feel like Kled into Garen a lot better than
He
Olaf into
gets it
Garen.
next game.
Okay, it is
Yeah,
next
that's
game.
my other big issue with this draft is that they last pick Olaf as a counter pick into Garen. That is not a counter pick into Garen. That is not a good matchup.
What if it's like a Woofwoof scenario as we pan to the second game where he was looking at counter picks to Garen and accidentally read the worst matchups tab and then just picked the Olaf and it was GG. I think Top Tower's champ pool should be able to counter Olaf, and I'm surprised that it didn't. Or not Olaf, excuse me, Garen. But then we transition into the second game where Top Tower does get declared. So it was this week. And I'm just shocked by Lacuna's Volibear getting through all the time. Like, if you look back, even on the games Lacuna Matata lost, if he had Volibear, he puts up a performance, and it's just literally the same. It's 11-1. It's the Lacuna show, really. I just gotta say it.
Were you talking on this guy last week?
Well, so some would say that Lacuna Matata is not a Diamond 2 level jungler. Some would say he's an Emerald 2 level jungler. I think much more apt. But I game's got to recognize game, right? Like, I really do think Lacuna, and maybe it's because I'm making all these jokes about him, I think he's being ridiculously slept on. I think when people look at this roster, they say, what can we do to shut out Owen? What can we do to shut out Owen? What can we do to shut out Owen? And it's like, there are other people on this team that perform phenomenally. And I think when you look at their win record and then you look at Owen up there, like, you don't look at everyone else. But when they get the resources they need, Lacuna Matata kind of frags out. They're kind of crazy with it. I can't even lie.
I'm surprised to see the AP Volibear build. I thought that was pretty exclusive to jungle to top lane, but evidently
Lacuna
it worked.
builds this, I think, virtually every game he plays
Really?
Volibear. Yeah,
Oh,
it's pretty
okay.
consistent. Looks very, very strong. I also want to give a shout out to Balmer, who played Draven, played it really well. I think that this game Owen got put behind a bit more than a lot more than the first game. Top Tower ended up 2-6, but he actually did pretty well in lane phase to keep Owen from getting ahead. But they focused so much on top lane that Balmer just got ahead with Lacuna helping him, and those two were unstoppable for the rest of the game.
Yeah, you never want to see 2 items and upgraded boots Draven versus your 1 item and recurve bow Ashe. Well, then they also have boots there, but it's like that just goes to show you the crazy level of disparity between these 2 bot lanes. And shout out Balmer. I also think Balmer is slept on for this team. Low key, I'll say it publicly, Lacuna Matata the most underrated team in the whole tournament. I'll say it openly.
Where are they in the standings again?
Let's wind it back just real quick. Pretty low down. Are like contending now,
but they're climbing. They got their wins.
They are, but also like you will see Lacuna Matata in finals. I hate to be the guy to say it. I think the 2 teams that are getting knocked out in pool 2 are pretty much locked in.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see a crazy final run from this team. But then we go into oh wait, I have to remember the asset I have. PP versus FF. Speaking of a team at the bottom of the pool, this series almost didn't happen. I get a notification 4 minutes before game time. Normal game time. They actually rescheduled it. I just forgot about it when we were dealing with it. That FF does not have a team and was looking to FF. And they were so serious about it, I actually talked to Poro Pounders about it and presented it as an FF. And then I found out later that they were able to get a player and get the game going. But just real quick, I'm going to pull off the PowerPoint. I just want to give y'all a little showcase of what Poro Pounders is all about. Always look at the gold graph, champs picked, what we're doing here. And then we're going to look at, just real quick, we're right here. Or maybe this is the game 2. No, this is game 2. We're going to go ahead and talk about it. No, we'll hold it. It's just a sneak peek. But surprisingly close this first game. I'm going to be the first to say it. I actually think Freaky Floppas, if they can get players in the game after all these schedule dropping replacements, aren't as weak as you'd think it'd be. I think they are I think they're more schedule gapped than they are skill gapped. I'm going to say it.
Absolutely. I think that for this game particularly, this was Kral, who is the Olaf jungle player. This was his debut game for FF. I think he played really well. But more importantly for this game specifically, Goomba Stomp and Bird Person won bot lane very hard, which is a massive surprise over Different and Levi, which is on paper the best bot lane in the tournament. And that really got them through the early game very well. They struggled a lot from there with actually capitalizing on that lead and maintaining it, expanding it into the game, but signs of life is always good.
How do you have such a systematic breakdown that I believe Goomba Stop is a platinum ADC, and then you have an emerald ADC off roll to support, can contend against double GM peak bot lane? Like, in what world is that possible? Don't everyone speak all at once, guys.
I don't play ADC here.
Yeah, we're looking at
Luyten.
Resident
I'm sorry.
player.
I didn't really watch this. I mean, you got 2 ADCs. That's more than the enemy team. So, like, how can lose? You know?
Yeah, I also just, as we move to the second game, I also want to say this Peter Griefer player, you're going to see him as Taliban Karthus. You got to keep an eye out for this guy. He's supposedly a Diamond and Masters level top laner. I have yet to see that level of performance out of him in any of these games that we've seen played. And I think here you have him against like the worst team, and also like 6Gs isn't bad, but 6Gs is nowhere close to his peak. And he's kind of not doing anything. Just for the record, he's an Orin one trick top lane. And this is where we can throw up the snip. Just real quick, I'm going to move this right here. We get constant reports that Slave Knight Kaz has a bit of a temper in these games. And so we actually got to live catch it. Kaz, this is your official warning from VLN. I'm in mod mode, okay? You cut this out or we cut you out, okay? Now you guys go, ooh.
Ooh.
Thank you, Bubbles.
I'm
That's why Bubbles
contributing.
is the GOAT.
But yeah, I mean, even here, it's like Different gets the Jinx up and running and Levi gets his signature Rumble. But like, even this like 7K goal behind still doesn't feel as much of a stomp as it's supposed to be, given the team's relative discrepancy in strength.
Definitely scrappy games here. Like a lot of back and forth and just way more deaths than usual, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hate to give Bronzina credit because he's going to take an inch and go a mile, but like his team at this point, I think they're still going to be knocked out, but I think they're going to play to sour some people's seasons, because they're surprisingly strong. I really think they are.
Yeah.
I
Crawl
think
is
they're one of
showing
a
up.
couple of teams that are worse than the sum of their parts, and if they can fix that, then it's a bit better off.
Maybe if they just have their, I literally think if Pony's here instead of Bird Person, they win this series. I will say it publicly. I think Pony and either of the ADCs and the team they have here, they're for sure taking one game. I would coin flip on if they win the whole series.
I think there's a chance. Before we move on to the next series, though, I do just want to bring attention to the Jax's build and damage, because I think it's important that we all acknowledge this.
Oh, yeah, we'll roll it all back.
Oh,
Yeah, he put up a game like this against me where he also got perma camped by his jungler, and he claims he solo won that game. Keep in mind VLN diffs this player, and he is a Diamond 3 currently top laner, just so you know.
I don't know. All I know is that I see AP Jax. I support it. I think he might be the GOAT.
Well, if Bubbles endorses him, I have to endorse him. Peter Griefer, I take it all back. You're the GOAT. And now we can move on to the Sunday games, okay? And we're going to kick it off with the only game I think this whole tournament I'll be sad about because I wanted 07 to rebound. I really, really did. And it's the infamous Gilly versus Luyten bot lane. I mean, Luyten, how are you feeling?
Oh, I felt gapped, bro. I got absolutely clapped by the Gilly. It was rough.
I'm gonna live leak this now. I'm in charge of the clip show this week, right? I have to submit the clips to Dumpling, and the 5th clip number 5 is going to be Gilly solo killing you, just so you know that it is going in there. But
I think that plus the clip where I'm AFK trying to fix my stream were just absolutely
incredible.
I just real quick to not talk about the game, but talk about the people in it. You and Naki's streams are phenomenal. Starting out where your resolutions, like, you can only see the top corner of the game, and you piecemealing putting your game together live, and then Naki playing Subway Surfers in a leaked video on his stream, and then he doesn't even change the game screen to the game. I was trying to watch these series to know what was happening, and I just couldn't. I was robbed of the right, even though they were live streamed games.
Unlucky. Yeah. What can you do?
But this is, or go ahead, Bubbles.
Yeah, this game just was a bit of a struggle. I think Eureka and Vowels tried their hardest to win this game, and they actually did almost get close to making a comeback out of nowhere off of a Baron steal, which you can see is that massive comeback. But yeah, they were just too far out of the game.
Yeah, I mean,
that Baron was really bad.
It's a valiant effort, and then as it goes into the second game, you can just see that it's like, this is the piss team matchup. By the way, so everyone knows this is the piss team matchup. It just wasn't even close, and I saw a lot of people talking bad about 07 in this series, specifically the second game. Like, they're draft gapped, they don't know how to pick their teams, blah 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 blah, and it's like, you have to remember, this is the strongest roster of GF against arguably the weakest 07, right?
Correct.
And so it's like, they're not draft gap. They have to ban and pick things that might be bad, but to put the carry on the carry players and to make it where their low elo players can't absolutely end. That said, they let Dagillyweed get Thresh. Yeah. And that guy,
I'm just gonna defend his Thresh. There was a 2v2 between the bot lane, and the silver bot lane beat the diamond challenger bot lane. All I'm saying.
I do think Gilly performed better on the Thresh than the Zyra, as much as I hate to say it.
Well, you kind of gave him the free win bot lane, Luyten, the moment you locked in Aphelios. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but it's true.
Did you watch our draft at all during that game?
I watched the draft, I think, but I thought you were muted during draft, so maybe I just assumed.
No, I didn't mute during the second one. We first picked Kiana on accident because they weren't sold in my Aphelios at first, especially B1.
That's crazy. That
So he just locked in the first thing he saw, and it happened to be Keon.
How do you feel that your team captain was like, I don't know, when you were against
well,
Gilly Botlin?
no, it was more just like, should we B1 Jinx or not? It was a like perfectly. I was part of the conversation. It's not like they're just telling me no. But yeah, this draft was an absolute disaster on our end, but it worked out, I guess, and we finally get to see Naki play Kiana.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I was excited to
Only
see
time.
Yeah, the only time he ever will.
This is the second time he's ever played it in GCS, and the first was in a custom, according to him.
Mark that down. Mark that down, guys. Keep that in mind. I gotta pump us out. By the way, we're at 50 minutes, and we're just starting Sunday. So if you're tuning in now, I'm gonna get us going a bit quicker. I've enjoyed the rift, but Dumpling will shoot me in the head with a 9mm pistol if this goes past an hour and a half. So then we have SI versus Molly the dog, and this is what I would have described as coughing baby versus dying coughing baby, which surprisingly, Molly the dog actually came out ahead. Again, I want to say I support Molly the dog. I've been saying that I think that they're strong, but they didn't have their best player, and then they replaced their best player with arguably a worse player. Yeah, Spardor gets to join. And then that guy's just like, I'm not the worst player ever. I'm actually one of the best players in the entire tournament, and you don't believe in me. And so I went into it like assuming they were going to get wiped. I won't lie. Pyrosis is on this team. I don't see how Pyrosis would end up going 0-6. Tico Fighter is on this team. I don't see how Tico Fighter would end up going 1-7. And somehow, like, Molly the dog beats them tooth and nail, right? Like, how does this happen?
You don't know Pyrosis if you don't know how he's going 0-6. He's 10-0 or 0-10, and there's no in between.
Yeah, I guess he just coin flipped the wrong game. There's a quadra kill with the Wukong out of this game that's ridiculous. Like, Haxor's was actually the thing holding them back because he wasn't there, and getting him replaced enabled this team. And then we go into the second game, which, Bubbles, if you have anything to say about the first game, feel free to.
No, we can go second game.
Second game, just a complete reversing of the same story. Still, Spartor, or also known as Romeo, doing crazy things, but now his bot lane's losing, and somehow Gangplank is still beating Tico Fighter. Like, I don't see I don't get what's happening in these games. Like, I really think they just like played Yahtzee, and whoever won got to win the lane. It's insane to me how it turned out.
Yeah, I mean, this game particularly, Pyrosis flipped from that 0-6 to 17-7. Played really well this game.
Yeah, I mean,
Renekton kind of invisible.
And Tico Fighter is a Masters level top laner, specifically on the Shin. But even without it, like, I feel like he should be beating Gangplank, who I believe is like an Emerald peak player. Gangplank, I'm sure you're gonna correct me if I'm wrong.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and then you go, and then it's the second or the third game where it's like Molly the dog smashed, and then SI smashed, and then they carry the momentum in, and they're absolutely destroying Molly the dog, and then you get into a game, and then they lose. They just lose. Like, J Rich gets the Zeri, he's online, he's scaling well into the late game, and I don't get where this happens, right? Like, I get that. I just don't know. Please, anyone else? Anyone else?
I do think this one made a bit more sense. This game specifically, I just don't think SI ever got far enough ahead to win. And MDFC just have a really nice scaling comp.
Yeah, it's just a scaling diff, honestly, and they didn't get Soul before they start winning Drake fights and whatnot. I think it's pretty fair on both sides.
I do want to just real quick point out that Tiger 58 put up a VLN level performance as Maokai.
Unlucky.
Just
isn't that like
CS
inherently
differential
part of
is over you?
Okay, well, you don't have to cut me where it hurts. Everyone ban J Rich Zeri. I got Different is on my ass because I tell everyone to ban his Vayne. Ban J Rich Zeri if you want to beat Molly the dog. Okay.
Oh yeah, we can start just telling teams what to ban. It's not too hard at this point.
It's a reward for actually listening to us yap. You know what I mean?
True. Don't ban Luten's Aphelios.
Yeah, actually tell Luyten you'll PayPal him $5 if he picks Aphelios, and you'll get dividends out of it. And then we roll GT into MBR, and this is MBR's best roster. This is a roster everyone's concerned about when they talk about this team, versus the team that I argue is the best in the whole tournament. And somehow, some way, Gumby Power proves me right as a silver 3, 36% win rate, that Aatrox is actually the most unbalanced champion in the entire game. Look at this.
True.
Look at this performance. Sundered Sky Eclipse Aatrox mid lane. He's a fraud. He abused the champion to get that high. He can't hit Challenger without Aatrox. I'll say it openly.
Yeah, Aatrox kind of was very strong this game. I do want to give a shout out to Ocean Inspector and Yo8 who played bot lane this game. They didn't obviously like completely 1v9 like Gumby did, but they did a really good job at preventing STL from snowballing in the game and preventing him from trying to do anything against Gumby.
Yeah, or go ahead, Luke.
It's interesting to hear because I believe I heard from Osha himself after that game that he is really bad at League of Legends, and yeah,
No,
something along those lines.
Yeah,
but we all know that Ocean Inspector, I'm not
That's
going to
just
dox
a
his real name,
lie.
is good at the game. He is just lying.
Yeah.
I just want to dial back the bans here as well to point out that you don't see the Talon ban. You don't see the Echo ban because it's stolen, right? But you don't see the Talon ban until the second round here. Again, ban Gummy's Talon, ban his Echo. Unless you're blue side and you're planning to pick one, then leave it up, sure. But he just knows the matchup so well, and I think the Aatrox was just there to counter the Echo. But then, game 2, we're going on an
absolute
anecdote.
cinema.
Yeah, we're the first thing before I'm gonna let y'all talk about the game, but I have to throw this in here real quick. PPDiff, or not PPDiff, excuse me, different of PP has said that if PP doesn't beat MBR this weekend or take a game off them, that no one is going to be able to. And I said, different. GT took a game off their main roster this weekend. He just didn't know that, okay? And this is why the team is the strongest that I think they are. Keep in mind, Mouth Breather's main roster cannot be ran every game of the playoff bracket. But GT's can. And GT's main roster took a game off Mouth Breathers in a phenomenal way. That's all I had to say. I had to get the anecdote out there.
Yeah. I want to give a major shout out to Kessler, who recognized Gumby is just going to play random champions mid lane, and he countered it within as best a champion as he could to counter it. He actually forced Gumby to roll swap into top lane, so it was actually Gumby playing Vi top and Xenix playing Gwen mid, which is really funny.
Dude.
But yeah, Poppy mid technology.
This draft is just crazy in so many levels. I don't even know.
Despite what is being said in tournament general by people who be left unnamed, Kessler is playing like a freak in this tournament in the best way possible. He does have some lows, can't deny it, but when he's on it, like he's contending, right? Like he's actually kind of doing crazy. And I don't think any other player in this draft would have cooked up Poppy mid to counter Vi mid of all things, except maybe Gumby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could agree.
They also just note, guys, Ricardo doesn't play Vi jungle. Leak Ace Killer does not play Vi jungle. Just gonna put that out there for those who are wondering. But then we go into just the downfall, the stomp of GT in a way that like MBR had a sizable lead in all these games, and through fair play and through some luck, GT could take them back. But this one was just like, what do you do? Like, Gumby Power just has so much setup on one of his best champions, and Xenix was unkillable. You know what I mean?
Are we calling Diego mid one of his best champs now? That's oh boy.
He's got a lot of best champs.
As a dedicated Gumby Power stream watcher, yes. He plays Viego mid a surprising amount. Like, it's either his third or his fourth most, I would say. Yeah.
That's unlucky.
Yeah, that or Action. He also plays a lot of that. And maybe it's a for fun pick. Maybe he doesn't think he's that good at it. But I've seen him play a ridiculous amount of games on it. Also, spoiler alert, he's learning set mid for those just live leaking that. But yeah, I mean, it's just a freak. And I think this one, you just have 2 supports this game, or 3 supports even, to just keep
this game is just an overall team gap. Unironically, Well, okay, so CC Swift had a good early game. I will give him that, but after a certain point, Lau is unkillable. I actually think Kessler did pretty well in lane this game against Gumby. But ironically, the weak point of this game was bot lane for group therapy when we've all been saying it's their strongest part of their roster, but it did struggle this game, which Gumby helped a lot with. And Mouth Breathers just ran the game from there.
Yeah, it's just GG if STL and Dumpling don't come alive for this team. But then moving on to Lacuna Matata versus Summit Admins, which I'm actually going to go ahead and tell you, big ups to Lacuna Matata. They didn't win this series. It's a 1-2, but I think this was a great game for them to take off. Brizzy actually kind of a goated support. Like, I think his stat line in this game isn't necessarily the highest, but we're talking about the series altogether. Kind of played really well with isolation. But like Lacuna Matata just kind of showed that they're not slouches. They're not the weakest team in the whole tournament. You know what I mean?
Yeah, another really good showing from Ballmer.
Man, this Jinx champion is not fair. Every time I say,
No.
"Oh, look, is that a or did Noah Philios's perform well?" Oh, we'll leave
I'm not
that.
going to speak on that.
Okay.
I'm not going to speak on that.
We'll leave that. Just a quick game one. I believe this wasn't a very long match. No, it was. Didn't they have a really short match? Am I mistaken? We're gonna go to the next one to see. No, it's another 30-minute game. This
Game
one,
3, I believe.
This is the one that I watched this game live on Owen's stream. It hurt me genuinely to see someone as good as Gargoomba be relegated to the you're the weaker one in top lane, pick Malphite pick. It actually made me sad to see it, but he shows why it works, right? Like, I think he was incredibly useful for the whole game. And then the Malphite R just became a great way to start everything up for the rest of his team. And this is the game Brizzy kind of goes crazy in, playing primary engage.
Wait, I think Gar's probably best performing top lane considering PV at this point. Maybe even without PV. I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah, I think I would say so. I think he's
Tubby also up there for sure. I think he's had a couple of really, really good games.
Yeah, I think Tubby is. Maybe this is bad. I thought Tubby was an ADC player until this tournament.
No, he's a midman.
And so I was surprised, but I guess he's comfortable where he is, and they are showing up. I think this team, like as we go into game 3-2, where it's just domination. I think the weeks early, they just didn't practice. They didn't have the practice, I should say. Not that they didn't practice. But now that they all know each other, it's like, I would put them A tier. Openly, I would put them A tier as a team. I'll say it. And look at the KDAs.
We have a performing Aphelios.
Easy.
And you notice whose name it isn't.
No, I don't know who you would be referring to there.
Well, that starts with an I instead of... Nah, it's...
Weird.
It's crazy they get the Aphelios Lulu twice. I'd be very interested to see who was up to drafting this, but like Gargoomba shut out Owen this game, and if you can shut out Owen, Lacuna Matata has very little play, just openly, which it might weigh heavy on Owen's shoulders, but look at the performance, right? Like, Gar's a freak. I wanted to draft Gar. He got sniped from me, and no one will trade him to me, unfortunately.
No, he is not getting traded. Pretty confident on that one.
But I'll beat him when we play him. Anyway, just moving on. We'll keep moving on to SI versus AWB.
What SI?
Wait.
Oh, that.
This is meant to be NS.
Yeah.
Production. NA production up here. NA production.
NA production.
Which is just it's cemented Nova Chrysalis, I think, as 1 or 2. I'm still holding out for GT, but it's becoming harder every week that NS plays in the Gauntlet. And it's not necessarily the cleanest game. AWB is still meant to be really, really strong. And this is them without Reborn as a jungle, and you get Woofwoofpressq again. But still, they claim it all.
I will defend Woofwoof's honor here. I do think Woofwoof, unironically, out of all junglers who have played against Billy so far, has played the best into him. Which is kind of strange, but I think this is like the only series where Billy did not just straight up 1v9. And in response to that, Banana on Nova Crystallis absolutely carried this game he had so much side lane pressure the entire game, played so well in lane. I think he played by far the best in this game.
Yeah, he played so well that I think Banana was Woofwoof's #1 rated top laner this week, maybe #2, and like is because of a performance against him. Game had to recognize game there, right?
Yep.
And then on to this second series where it's again like Nova Crystal is very much so much more alive this game, and the bot lane actually was able to do something, which is very surprising to me. Alun, from what I'm being told about him as I get to know him more and more, kind of an early game freak, definitely a bully in the lane, but if he doesn't get that, doesn't necessarily transition well to the game or outside of lane, excuse me. Biomatrix, Kaisa OTP gets it, and of course he's going to perform on it.
Yeah, and W the case regardless if you're not getting ahead, especially because it's kind of over.
Which maybe that's, support ADC misalignment. Love June to death. I think she actually played well these games. I think Kalista is a champion that wants to play pretty aggressive, right? You want to lock in your engage picks. You don't necessarily want your enchanters, right?
It is okay. It's better than some enchanters.
Well, I think was there Zyra banned? Guys, I'll say it live. I think June Zyra is their best support by far. And I think this game could have been completely different if she would have locked it. But I mean, what can you say aside from the fact that Nova Crystal is the strongest team in the tournament or the second strongest?
It's also they're the best roster against AW's best roster.
No reborn.
Yeah.
June isn't their best support.
I take it all back. NS is on Fraud Watch. Those guys actually
let's just put every team on Fraud Watch.
Fraud Watch, bro. Billy, if you're watching this, Different rated you outside of the top 5 junglers, just so you know if you watch this, Billy.
That's crazy.
I believe his list was Reborn, KTN, parentheses, the guy who fathers Billy, into TV, into his own jungler Grape. So he might be 5th. There's a chance that he's 5th.
Jungle pool is kind of stacked, huh?
Yeah, jungle is also our second largest sign up after mid lane. Surprising. I actually think it was an exact tie. It's very, very top heavy as well. But then,
oh boy,
it's V8 versus WoW. It was 1-2. We don't really got to talk about it. We can just go through it. No, we'll talk about it. We'll 10,000 damage from Maokai is pretty good. It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good.
And then we'll just look at the second game stats.
All right, go back.
We don't.
Yeah, go back. Can you?
What
was that twisted?
Oh,
fate
my
doing
back
there?
key. My back key. Oh yeah, the TF. The TF is who we got to look at this game.
Yeah.
In
Where's your
fairness,
damage?
Yeah, I'm a setup,
Well, no, just like in this draft as a whole.
No, we have MF Lilia Aatrox. That's a lot of damage, I promise.
Ooh, okay, so you 5-man Lily asleep into a 5-man MF. Okay.
Into a 5-man Aatrox E.
E? That's crazy.
the dash, the 5-man dash.
Yeah.
We can
But unironically, shout out to Hyper Dragon Reaper's Blade, who played very well. They got leads, hard snowballed with them.
This was a disgusting game from both of them to watch. I don't know.
We can listen. I'll just say it. I played like a fucking pig this game. I walked out of there saying that was the worst game of League of Legends I've ever played. And I stand by that. This game is probably the worst game of League of Legends. And contrary to popular belief, I did not sub out any of our supports to lock myself in because I thought I was better than them at support. I have to hit my force play totals. But also, I'm going to say it, I think everyone on my team, I might have been the mother pig, okay? But everyone but Ping Spam were the little piglets running around in my hogstead, okay? And maybe Agu as well. I got to give him a little credit. He wasn't a piglet either. So
he played pretty well this game, yeah.
Inform yourself from there who the other 2 piglets were this game. And I'll leave it to extrapolate.
You called out Ricardo for kind of an AFK jungle game earlier. This was TV's, I think, for sure. He kind of just didn't do too much.
TV,
albeit there wasn't much to do, but there was more to do.
At the start of this game, TV and Agu 2v1 Pandelian, who escapes and then re-engages when Hyper Dragon walks up, and they both die to Hyper Dragon. I personally would cite that as the end of the game because I think it shut out TV. But maybe I'm just coping for the fact I'm 1-11. We can move on from this game though, where we just absolutely legendary.
This was cinema.
This
Absolute
was even
cinema.
more disgusting than game one somehow. We had a 10k gold lead, open Nexus, and we almost threw the game.
Um,
Yeah, I think for this game, for me, it's a shout out to both Ping Spam and KibCat. Ping Spam for saving you guys in this game, and KibCat for almost making it a comeback, especially considering his rank and whatnot. But his Syndra did really well this game.
I just real quick, I have to personal gripe at the casters for the Sunday game, who when I threw the game-winning hook. By the way, I started the
Yeah.
engagement that won us the
Game-winning.
game. There was some casting that was like, effectively, why would VLN ever throw this hook? This is a garbage hook. And then it was like, oh, by some miracle, it worked. I just want it on my record. I threw that hook because they said, VLN, throw that hook. And I said, yes, sir. And I threw that hook and I hit the target and we won the game because of it. Okay.
Yeah, Ping Spam doesn't 1v9 that fight. I got some concern for you guys, for sure.
Yeah, but we had faith that he would 1v9. You know what I mean?
Of course, of
I'll
course.
have you know, I still had stopwatch. I could have
Ooh,
cooked something.
big.
I do want to say that, like, the ace that they did to hold this game is strong. Like, it's a good clip. It will probably be in the top 5 clips. But it's also, like, not surprising. I think they had a composition that was pretty well suited to turtling out the game. And I think a lot of people relied on me to cancel the MF ult if that happened. And I was always ready. Believe it or not, I was trying. But, like, you can't counter Rel MF when the Rel literally just flashes on you and keeps you away from her.
Didn't they stop you from ending like 3 different times, not just once?
Yeah, actually.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
I don't
know
remember
what-
that
you kinda-
happening.
Oh, okay. All right. Sure.
I see.
There was
Well, we'll
the
just-
one was the most cinematic though,
This-
for sure.
This
We'll
is.
just say the rest of my team had more than 2 deaths. Imagine
That is
having
interesting.
I do want to say I think this game was a very big eye-opening moment for me on how to respond to calls, because I think I actually blame myself for the reason that we didn't in this game every chance that we got, and it is because I had one person, Ping Spam, telling me any hook on MF or Syndra wins us the game, which is true. I think any hook we blow them up, we can win the game. And then I have other people on my team, miscellaneous, like different at every time, but a lot, usually 2 or 3, saying, we lose this here, do not throw a hook. And I think so much of the game actually got put on me to be the one deciding when to start a fight, and I crumpled under that pressure literally 10 out of 10 times. And it took our literal last team fight, we were running, everyone was saying run. It took Bubbles saying, this is a 3v4, we should be able to win this, we won't get a better chance, and then Ping Spam to say, well, Nautilus has to throw the hook for me to even look for it. So I actually think I learned a lot from this game, despite it being a smash loss. You know what I mean?
Bubble said, "Nah, I'd win." That's great.
Nah, I'd win.
Nah, and we did.
But yeah, but I mean, we've talked about our own series long enough.
Yeah, and then
Too much narcissism.
third game is in FF. Emergency play.
3-hour series, by the way.
The wait, what?
It took 3 hours for 2 games.
That's crazy. Yeah, for client issues, both teams met. I actually got to hop on a call with KibCat, who was acting captain since Happier Cat was out. We talked about options, what to do based on the rules, and then agreed on the FF, and went about our day. Thank you everyone for having been supportive about that. WoW was actually incredible sports for what happened. Very much so appreciate that. And so after that is Poro Pounders versus the World Orders, which I think is just, this is one of the few series this week I didn't even get to see anything of, but it looks like Different and Levi just chewed through them. Seems like Jinx is an incredible pick in these tournaments, especially because you can just protect them. And Brandis, surprisingly, currently an Iron player, 5-0 on the Amumu. Let it be known Amumu can punch up.
True. This was just an overall stomp by Poro Pounders. It was just clean and just pretty controlled throughout the entire game.
Yeah.
There's never really any doubt.
Yeah, I think that Poro Pounders are finding a stride as we go into the next game, where you can still see it's just like blood red of their enemies bleeding out.
I will say, this game, absolute cinema. I wish it was streamed. If you go back and look at how long this game was, it was only like 27, 28 minutes, and now look at how many kills there were.
Oh, good night. That is a bloodbath. An 0-12 Borea is very surprising to me, especially on an Alistar. I consider Borea probably top 3, maybe top 4 supports in the whole tournament. But also, let this be a note that Aatrox beats Set in the matchup, which I've said for years, and some people who are mad copers deny that that's true. There is a pretty sick Set clip where Aatrox dies despite being really far ahead in the 1v1. But a big shout out. I really just want to give a shout out to Brandis. Brandis has been around since the first tournament I ever did, and then could not play in any other tournaments because he was too low elo, and is now showing up on a team where he can actually perform. So I'm giving you a little applause, Brandis, if you're listening. And then for our last series, FF versus Leg. Legend of the Leg actually claims their first win in, I actually think, a pretty convincing fashion. I watched these games for the most part live. Now some stuff was happening that prevented me from giving it my full focus. But this is like Leg at their happiest. And this is where really what I was saying earlier, where I think Nico literally titled his stream GCS for Fun Season and just didn't care as much this series. And they actually kind of swept through game 1 and then into the game 2, which they technically lose here. But you can see that they lost. They lost despite having a pretty sizable gold advantage. Okay. So, they were winning in the game.
That victory damage is pretty good as well, I'd say.
Just real quick then to throw it here, just shout out Nico. I've been saying the games he comes alive, they'll win. He came alive, they win. I Fear Nobody came alive. Top Tower came alive. This is the game I didn't get to see because it happened at the same time that our games was playing. How did they lose this?
Crawl is very good at the game. They also had 6Gs who played mid lane first game. They swapped him and number 0 between mid and top, and he played a Cho'Gath and was just unkillable.
It's a crazy good Cho'Gath and Gwen game, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they just honestly, between game 1 and game 2, they just swapped roles between a couple players, and it worked out a lot better.
Is this gold graph broken?
I think it's flipped in terms of colors.
Well, it looks like
just the golden graph is. Though.
Okay, never mind. This suddenly makes a lot more sense. Okay, because this was the game I didn't watch, and I was like, how did they lose with up a billion gold? Never mind. I'm not confused anymore. That makes sense. And then this game 3, this is a correct gold graph, presumably, because Legend of the Leg. And I mean, look at it. It's just they know how to play their advantages pretty well. Nico, 10-1 on the Ace Hall. If you're against Nico, ban the Aurelian Soul, man. How many clips does he have to hit?
It's an obvious one.
I also want to give just another weekly shout out. If you don't watch Nico's streams, I would watch him. If you're not playing on those, and he's not, don't stream when your games are on the official stream, but they're actually a ton of fun to watch, and you get a huge insight into the team. Legend of the Leg, actually happy. I think it was at the top. It was like, his team versus the Ops, and so he was happy to claim a win against the Ops because up until now they've won every week. But that's our recap for the game so far. Any last minute things y'all want to say about the game as we look at the standings one more time about any team or any match this series or this weekend?
You mentioned being at the start being surprised at certain teams. I think Luyten is also kind of surprising for me. I feel like the roster's kind of better than they've shown. It's kind of the case for a couple of these teams. Really, just why are they performing so bad? I don't really know.
Yeah, I think David Edge has been out, I can say comfortably, for moving a house. I think when he comes back, I do think there's a world where SI rebounds and puts Molly the Dog back into the eliminated spots. I think Pool 1 is kind of shaping up. It's not fully decided like Pool 2 is, but MDFC is in a runoff for SI on who's going to be knocked out.
Top 5 is pretty clear, though.
Yeah, I think top 5 is pretty clear.
No, I disagree. 07, my goats, they're going to make a run back, and 8 and 6, top of the standings. 07 sweep.
I think the biggest question for Group 1 right now is who is 4th seed. I think that's going to be highly contested and getting the upper bracket spot.
My genuine prediction is V8 will be 4th seed and we'll make a miracle run to finals and win the whole thing.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty much the exact same order that it is right now.
Yeah. I actually still believe in the world where Wizards of Wahoo are disqualified by player count, though. So keep that in mind as a potential way to bring your teams back. But we're going to move from the standings to PR. And so there's only one person we're going to go over PR. I'm going to live say that me and Luyten will be doing our team PRs bi-weekly now. Luyten, that work for you? It's your cute little puppies in the background. Everybody look at him up and moving. But we have a special guest, and our special guest has not given team PR yet. So Bubbles, this is your floor. Say what you want to say.
Yep. So these are mostly just list of teams, and it is ordered. So left to right, the left teams are what I would perceive as stronger. So I guess I can start at the bottom. I do think Leg is the weakest team in spite of beating FF. FF did not have two of their top 3 players, and they played multiple players off role and still took a game. I think Leg could be a lot better, but I don't know if they're just kind of for funning it or just aren't meshing together as well as they could. But I do think they're the weakest team. I also still think FF is one of the weakest teams in the tournament as well, in spite of being slightly better. But that's why they're still in D tier. In C tier, I have Lacuna Matata, SI, 07, and TWO. I think this is the barrier of teams that will not make playoffs or will get eliminated quickly in playoffs. I just don't think these teams are consistent or at a high enough level to do well. Uh, I wish 07 was higher,
Yeah,
but I
bless
think
up
this is
for
where I
him.
have to place them for now. And then B tier is the first tier of teams that I think would have a chance to compete in playoffs. MDFC, after finally getting back their high elo players, Summit admins, after their recent resurgence, and V8, my team. I would put us higher, but we played terribly this past weekend, so we are in B tier as punishment until we get better. A tier is where we get to the main contenders, which is Poro Pounders, Glue Factory, WoW, and Group Therapy. Uh, I do think the only surprising pick here is Group Therapy in A, which I think makes sense after their weekend. Losing both series, you do have to acknowledge that as a potential weakness. And then S tier is the teams that I would put as most favorite to win. I am currently seeing NS as the best team in the tournament. I think that Billy is the best performing player in the tournament, and they just look unstoppable right now. I think AWB's main roster could beat them if they actually played against them, but they decided to dodge them, so we'll never know. So they get second place for now. And then MBR in third place. We saw them lose a game with their main roster. They're non-infallible. Gumby Power cannot win that hard. But they are still a very good team and absolutely in contention for winning the entire tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a pretty solid PR. I think it's pretty reflective of the standings. I actually only think the thing I would swap based purely off this week would be GT, or if you're including this week, is GT and NBR. I'm actually very surprised to see them knocked down. Luyten, do you have anything to say? You think there's anything stand out?
There's nothing I would like. There's no team I think is a 2 tiers away from where I'd put them. I feel like the craziest 2 teams, if I had to pick, would be Summit and WoW. But other than that, I think I could agree with all of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty solid. I also think you're set up to be the least controversial team PR that we've had so far. I think pretty much,
Probably.
aside from people glazing their own team and arguing about their placement, I think everyone else would accept the placement of every other team.
Oh, actually, no. That's where I got to flame Bubbles for not putting his team in S tier.
You know, I was considering putting us in S tier, but I cannot justify it enough.
It's okay.
PB's gonna kill you for that one.
I was gonna put us in an F tier, but that was a bit too much.
As punishment, you'll be locking Hui for the next 10 weeks of play.
All right, guys, please ban Hui.
Okay, well, thank you for the PR. We have a new segment this week that we're gonna try out, which is Woofwoofpressq's trademarked gambling section. So just for those of you who might not know, Woofwoofpressq is running illegal gambling bets on all of these games. So we've decided that we're going to co-op a bit of his illegal gambling into our own show, where we're going to place some bets, our predictions on some things that might happen. And so for the first one, since we already name dropped him, why not continue to? Does Woofwoof get benched by his own team this week, despite being the captain? Luden, we're going to start with you. Luden, what are your predictions?
Oh, I think 100%. He did not jungle gap despite claiming he did. I think they need some wins again. Put them on the bench.
Okay. Bubbles, I'm gonna bounce to you. I want to be the closer for this segment.
I would disagree. I'm a Woofwoof believer. I think that he can perform, you know. I think that he may not start some games, but I think he will play at least one series, do fine in it, and officially not play for game counts. Now, whether that's the actual reason, mm, to be determined.
I mean, I actually think I'm in a little agreements with Bubbles. I'm gonna alter the narrative a bit and say he's gonna start himself against Glue Factory this upcoming week, get
Ooh, that's true.
absolutely folded like a picnic table. Those don't get folded, but it doesn't matter. And then try, like, they're gonna try to bench him for the 07 series. He's gonna ego because it's vowels, play himself, and they're actually gonna lose, and it's gonna begin the slingshot back for 07.
Do you think Wolf's going to play top against Vowels then, or like where's he going?
No, he's gonna go jungle, but perma camp, and Vowels is gonna lock a
Oh,
Lowy and
okay.
absolutely obliterate the 2v1. Just so you
Yeah,
know,
I
the
like
prediction.
this narrative.
Yeah, the
I
07
like
rebound.
this.
I'll never lose faith, Vowels. I'll never lose faith. All right, for our next one, who do you guys think is gonna get their second win first? Legend of the Leg or Freaky Floppas? Luyten, starting with you.
I think there's a good argument for both. You talked about how Leg is playing a bit more for fun and kind of loose. But I think FF kind of has that higher, stronger potential. I don't know who they're playing next to consider schedule, but I gotta believe in Pony and Bird Person and a couple of guys on that team. So I'll go with FF.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, but I will argue that Leg is going to get their second win first, solely because they play Mouth Breathers first. I think Mouth Breathers is going to run out a double
Ooh.
iron roster against them, and Leg is going to get their series win off that before FF can.
That's actually, you might be onto
Smart.
something. I actually think I'm gonna call FF because I actually think MBR is gonna run single iron against Leg, and it's gonna be Tom Tua, and I think Tom Tua will somehow be able to stonewall top tower, stall their victory there, and then FF will clutch out their win against the World Orders the following week. That's my
Has
official prediction.
Bronztina played a game?
I don't know, man.
He might. He's gonna need to if he has.
I think he's played a couple,
Okay.
but I think he's actually played the least on his team.
Who wins, Bronztina or Tom Tua?
Tom Tua. Tom Tua
Okay,
bodies
all
that
right.
guy. I'll put it out there.
That's what I thought.
Live. All right, for the next one, does 07 bring it back, or will we enter the full crash out week and see the legendary, infamous 0-14 team throughout the whole tournament? What's your prediction, Luyten? What's your prediction?
I think if 07 has a singular FF this week, they crash out. Otherwise, I think they'll bring it back.
Okay, solid middle of the road answer. Not committing to either one. I like it, Luyten. I like it.
Of course.
Bubbles.
I have to believe 07 has to bring it back.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
They need to.
If 07 doesn't bring it back next week, well, hold on. I won't be here for running the Gauntlet next week. The week after, when I come back, if 07 isn't on the rebound, I will shave my head bald live on running the Gauntlet.
Oh,
that is how
no.
confident I am in that team. Just so you know ahead of time.
That's
Fellas,
crazy.
you know what to do.
Well, no, don't. Okay. On to the next one. All right, over under 8.5 wins for WoW at the end of the season. I believe you just took the. Wait, this is more than half. So you're saying they're gonna have a winning.
Just a hair
season.
above half.
Over
Yes.
under. All right, Luyten, kick us off.
It's a competitive group, but I think their best roster is pretty solid, and they've started playing their lower points, who've shown up a good bit, even against you guys. So I think I'm gonna go with over.
Over. Okay, you're a WoW believer. All right.
Have to be.
All right, Bubbles, go ahead.
I think I'm going to have to go with the over as well. I think that they've shown themselves to be a good team. You don't need to play the lower elo players that many times. Obviously, you still need to play them a decent number of series, but I think that they're currently 3-3, winning 6 more series in the remaining games is not that crazy of a task for them to do. I think they can do it.
Oh, well, in the effort to not make things so cut and
Unfortunate.
dry, I'm actually going to go with the under. I think
Can you tell me why?
okay, I'm going to tell you I'm going to open up the brain destroyer. I'm totally not stalling to try to think of the reason right now.
Oh yeah. Why would you do that?
Because they've made an enemy out of everyone in pool 1. And I think every
Ooh.
player on every team starting with the rematch week. So next Sunday is
This
the
week,
official.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technically next Sunday. Every team is going to lock in and play at probably 120% power. And I don't think the Wizards of Wahoo main roster is going to be able to handle that. I actually think
I could see that.
I'm going to call 6 wins is my prediction.
I like your thought process on that. I
Revenge
think that's a
tour.
good one. Yeah, revenge tour.
The revenge tour. And ladies and gentlemen, that actually brings us to the end of running the gauntlet this week. I'm actually very appreciative. I like this new segment here at the end a lot. And if you got any more ideas for it, I'll actually, you know what? Rare VLN Glazes Luyten moment. Luyten,
no.
you've brought this show up to like, it was at like 100%. You've made it like 199%.
Big.
Yeah. So thank you for coming.
Love to see it.
Bubbles, the GOAT, Bubbles 101012, the other Bubble. Thank you for being our third guest on Running the Gauntlet. Is there anything you'd like to say to anybody before we round this out?
Not much. It was fun being on here, talking about the games. Yeah, looking forward to watching it rather than being on it. But, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. I've been your host, Very Last Nerve, and we are out of here.